Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, warshippers of all ages, welcome back to YouTube. My name is SeaRaptor, and today we're continuing our first look at the Italian destroyer line that's going to be releasing in mid-March. Today, we're going to have a look at Tier 9's Adriatico. This is where I really start to like these ships. There's been a Tier 9 Italian destroyer in the game for a while, a premium ship called Paolo Emilio. And if memory serves correctly, Paolo Emilio is actually based on the Capitani Romani class ships that were built. They were basically like destroyer flotilla leaders. I think early to mid 1930s, something like that. And when we get to Tier 10, you'll see the tech tree version of that. Paolo Emilio is the premium version of that class of ship down here at Tier 9. Adriatico feels like a bridge ship, in the sense of the Capitani Romanis were, again, they actually were built. Those ships existed. And Adriatico feels like a ship that maybe they might have built in the interim to kind of bridge the gap between the destroyers they had been building with the 120mm guns up to this kind of flotilla leader, destroyer leader kind of style with the 135mm guns. Because you remember, so many of the Italian ship designs were really driven by the Franco-Italian naval arms race. And when the French moved up to the 139mm guns, apparently the Regia Marina felt they had to, keep up with the Joneses here, so they moved up to 135mm guns, and that's what we're going to find here as we move to Adriatico here at Tier 9. So let's look around the ship and talk about kind of I want to talk about two things. We'll talk about how she kind of squares off against her contemporaries at Tier 9, because there's a lot of other Tier 9 destroyers, but also how she compares to Paolo Emilio, because Paolo, again, should bear a lot more similarities to the Tier 10 ship, but she's the other kind of Tier 9 ship that's already in the game, and, we'll do a little compare and contrast as we go. Survivability. Now, this is where you're not going to be disappointed. Adriatico comes to the dance with 21,800 hit points. Now, this is not best in tier. Again, the little German split line that's like little pocket cruisers. In this tier, that's Felix Schulz, has over 24,000 hit points. And, of course, Paolo Emilio herself has over 24,000 hit points. So this is not best in tier, but, man, this is really good. This is really good. This is highly competitive. This is a significant chunk more of HP than a typical Tier 9 destroyer. Ties you with Tashkent. Also has 21,800 health. And in fact, nobody else... actually, I like Kitakaze. Also has a smidge over 20,000. No other Tier 9 destroyer breaks the 20,000 barrier. So you have a significant health advantage here to go with your main battery. So that's nice, because you're going to need that. You're going to need every last drop of HP to make this ship work. Quick look at the armor. Nothing to get excited about. Again, 19mm throughout. A smidge more armor on the turrets. Don't get shot. And when you do, you're going to take lots of damage. It's just the way it is. The nature of the beast here, nothing to get excited about. These are not the Russians or the Americans that put some extra armor plating in. None of that. The Italians were like, nope, we want speed and guns and screw the armor. Well, there you go. Speed maneuverability, or I should say maneuverability and concealment. 39 knots, 750 on the turning circle, 4.8 on the rudder shift. 39 knots is above average. It's not best in tier. Again, Mogador exists. Udaloy and Tashkent exist. Paolo Emilio exists, but it's really good. It is above average. You have more speed to play with than a typical Tier 9 destroyer. 750 on the turning circle is actually... For the first time, this ship's going to feel a little fat and sluggish in terms of most of the other Tier 9 destroyers handle better than this. In fact, pretty much all the other destroyers in the line leading up to this point handle better than this. So you're going to feel a significant handling difference here between Adriatico and Vittorio Cuniberti down at Tier 8. 4.8 on the rudder shift, I'd say, is also a little below average. Again, having played Paolo Emilio, and I kind of expect this ship to feel similar in handling. I'm not saying... she handles well enough for what you're up to. Paolo Emilio sometimes will will force her way into situations where she wishes she had better close-range handling. I don't believe Adriatico is going to suffer from this problem, largely because she's lacking the torpedo armament that Paolo Emilio has, that would encourage her to get into those kind of close quarter situations. Adriatico doesn't really have any enticement beyond her kind of gimped gun range to do that, and so I don't expect this sort of thing is going to happen to her very often. You see there, this is saying 8.8 surface detection. That is actually still correct. 8.78 is the true number. Full stealth rig gets this ship down to 6.9 kilometers on the surface. Not best in tier, far from it, but also not worst in tier. Again, Paolo Emilio is worse than this. Tashkent is worse than this. So, unfortunately, both Mogador is also worse than this. Just about everybody else is better though. This is kind of comparable. Actually, no, this is worse than Felix Schultz even. Yeah. So Felix Schultz even is better than this by over half a kilometer. I apologize. No, I'm looking at the wrong line. Apologies. Adriatico and Schultz are comparable. Schultz is a little less stealthy, but it's very, very close. So yeah, she's not going to win any stealth races. If you've played the 7 and the 8 to get to this point of the line, you should be used to that by now. You should have figured out tactics and strategies, where to put the ship, how to place certain caps, when to use your speed boost to run down ships that outspot you, but you outgun. And so yeah, you're just going to have to learn to play around it. It is what it is. Main battery. Now, for the first time since Tier 3, we are no longer firing 120 millimeter guns. That's right. The Italians finally gave up on the 120 millimeter guns here at Tier 9. They have moved up to 135 millimeter 45 caliber guns. So these are on a 6-second reload and a 9.5 kilometer range. That 6-second reload is noteworthy. This is essentially the same main battery as Paolo Emilio. The difference is that reload is nearly half of Paolo Emilio's. Paolo Emilio's base reload is over 10.5 seconds. It's terrible, right? Adriatico here, you see there, only 6 seconds. It's better than Mogador's base reload, which is 8 seconds. So the guns feel nice. The range is what doesn't feel nice. 9.5 kilometers of gun range on 6.9 kilometers of stealth. Oh, I was still looking at the wrong line. Man, I got it wrong earlier. Schultz does outspot you by quite a bit, almost a half a kilometer. Either way, though, you have about 2.5 kilometers of gun range outside your detection range. Still, it's not exciting, right? It's not encouraging. You have to drive this thing inside the secondary range of like every battleship she's going to run into to get. If you find yourself wanting to take on a battleship in a gunfight, you're going to end up having to smoke and run alongside him and pew him for a little while and then just peel away and hope for the best. You do have and we'll see this as we go over look at the consumables. You do have enough charges of the smoke that becomes a feasible possibility. But I mean, again, I reiterate, these ships really, really do have high skill floors. This is not a destroyer line for new players. You need to have a decent chunk of experience and a keen understanding of the mechanics, I think, of SAP and detection radii before you can really, really start to work these ships and get good results out of them. Turret traverse actually also getting a little worse here. Up to this, like the previous 3 to 4 ships in the line all had about a 13-second turret traverse. Here now we're getting a little slower, down to 18 seconds. So taking away a little bit of that comfort zone in knife fights. You probably, I haven't tested it. Obviously, I haven't played the ship, but you probably can outturn the guns at close ranges. So keep that in mind. You'll want to look into ways to buff that turret traverse, probably off the 1-point captain skill and possibly main battery modification, whichever it is that buffs the turret traverse. So keep that in mind when you build the ship out. The other notable thing here is that we've upped the gun caliber and we've upped the shell diameter, the shell caliber, and dropped the barrel calibers, right? Only a 45 caliber barrel here on a 135 millimeter shell means that those 950 meters per second shell velocities we've been working with for the last several tiers are gone. We're back to 875. This is still faster than we saw back with the old, I think down at like tier 5 or 6, you had 840 on those 120s. So it's still faster than that, but it's not as fast. So when you move from Vittorio Cuniberti up to Adriatico here, allow yourself some grace to adjust to the main battery. It will take you some time. The lead times of things will be different. Shelf light times will be a little different, and there'll be an adjustment period in there. So just kind of keep that in mind when you start taking the ship out for the first time. Torpedoes, still looking at 2 quad racks, just like we saw down at Tier 8. These torpedoes are actually better. Same range, same speed, but more damage. You see they're almost 13,000 on the Alpha. Again, these aren't going to feel amazing, but one of the things that I like best, right? Check this out. These are completely sheltered almost from incoming fire. Look at this. There's actually a deck, like a bridge deck built over the top of the torpedo launcher, such that you might actually, like if you in a close gunfight, battleship secondaries flying around or whatever, you take an enemy fire from an opposing destroyer, might land on that little bit of deck above the torpedo launcher and not disable the torpedo launcher. So they're fairly well protected in there. So that's something to keep in mind. The other thing is that we're also finally starting to get up to a torpedo alpha where you're putting 8 fish in the water at 13,000 damage apiece. You might finally be able to actually, do your little smoke charge torpedo a battleship off the board trick that, for example, Paolo Emilio over in the I think she's available for Cole Shop is so well known for, right? Because Paolo Emilio has 3 quadruple launchers, but her torpedoes do almost twice as much damage. They're little mini nukes. And so she's really good at that. But I think here in a pinch, Adriatico's torpedo armament has finally moved up to where you could pull that off as well. And you might even make the case for Vittorio Cuniberti being able to do the same thing down at tier 8, depending on the battleship in question and its current health pool. So I kind of poo-pooed that idea of being able to pop your little smoke generator, charge somebody, and waste them with torpedoes at close range in like the mid-tiers. But maybe by the time you get to tier 8, certainly here at tier 9, it becomes a little more viable tactic if you find yourself pressed and able to execute such an attack. Depth charges, same as we've been seeing. She's got depth charges. Go us. A defense, same pathetic garbage we've been looking at most of the way through. She's got some 37mm guns scattered around the ship. Looks like one on either side of the superstructure, probably one on the stern. And then some of these little sextuple-barreled Brettas that we've seen floating around. She's got 4 of these around the central, the forward stack here. That's actually, or is that the aft stack? Let me look. Aft stack. That's kind of a cool design, actually. So she's got she's got enough A to shoot down fighter planes that are spotting her, but you're not going to be shooting down many planes. Just don't get excited about it. It's not what you're ever going to do ever, and that's just all we can really say about that. Let's take a quick look over at consumables. And just like we saw down at tier 8, I've got damage control party, 6 charges of my exhaust smoke generator, and 6 charges of my fancy little speed boost thing. Yeah, again, I keep coming back to, this is a ship. The Italian destroyers in general are going to be high skill floor ships. And it's going to take people some time, I think, to develop tactics, how to play them, how to position them. You're just like at tier 8, your stealth works against you. But once you get someone in range of your guns, these guns will melt things. Look at that shell damage. Just crazy. Adriatico's SAP DPM is really, really good. Over 180,000. So again, you're looking at an effective DPM. Again, we're talking about full pins of about 60,000 damage per minute. Each individual salvo capable of probably a little over 6,000 damage if you're landing all 6 shells as full pins on a target. That's going to be a wake-up call to like almost any destroyer that you run into. Now, one of the things you got to remember, though, certain destroyers, look at the penetration values on those shells, right? I've got 23 mils out of the HE, 38 millimeters out of the SAP, but this thing will run into destroyers that have enough armor that they will shrug that off. I'm looking at you, Elbing. No, not Elbing. Really more Zorki and Habarovsk and Delny, I suppose, with that 50 millimeter section through mid. But also Paolo Emilio. If memory serves, Paolo Emilio has a 60 millimeter armor section through the middle. Let me make sure here. Am I lying? Hold on a minute. Let's double check. Let's just look at Italian destroyers. Paolo Emilio. Memory serves, she's got a nice fat strake through the middle. Come on back here. Yep, she does. She does. And I'm betting the tier 10 does too. Attilo Regalo when we get there. So again, when you're driving the tier 9 tech tree up against the tier 9 premium, aiming amidships, yeah, you might get pins here, but you're going to get some shatters here. You need trying to aim for the bow or the stern. You got to think through those things. So there are you're going to start to find destroyers in your matchmaking tier that are going to be bad for your health in terms of opposing gunfights. They'll kind of laugh at your guns a little bit, right? If we're honest. So keep that in mind as you start considering possible engagements with opposing destroyers when you zone into a game in Adriatico. Anyway, guys, that's our quick first look at Tier 9, the Tier 9 forthcoming Italian destroyer Adriatico. Hope you enjoyed that. Wash your hands. Be safe. I'll catch you next time.